Action! It's late August 2017, and today SegWit was activated on the Bitcoin protocol, network, and blockchain. What is SegWit for those who are new? SegWit was one of two major proposals to solve a fundamental problem that Bitcoin was starting to encounter in its 8th year. The problem that Bitcoin was starting to encounter was that the network was slowing down. Transaction times were taking longer and longer because Bitcoin was getting popular, and that network effect was starting to happen. As people found frustration about these slow transaction times, there were two major philosophies emerging as to how to solve this problem. Philosophy number one was SegWit, which I'll talk about in a second, and philosophy number two was to increase or expand the size of each block on the blockchain from what is today 1 megabyte. SegWit. SegWit stands for it's an abbreviation for the term segregated witness, and in a nutshell, it is a proposal to enable more transactions to move through the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, by removing from each transaction that's posted to the blockchain non-essential information. Before SegWit, 60% of a transaction's information was the signature, and other non-essential information was identified, the signature and other non-essential information. The proposal was, let's just remove that, let's move it off-chain and log it in a responsible way, thereby freeing up capacity to put more transactions into a block. The competing philosophy was to expand the size of the block, and this second philosophy was backed by a sub-community of miners. And there was a lot of contention. Through the summer, people were biting their nails, getting a little bit nervous. It wasn't very clear which one of these two philosophies would be adopted, and Bitcoin actually got a little shaky. It started to lose value, and it dipped down to below 2,000. On the other side of that controversy in July, the community came together and ratified SegWit, this first philosophy, and Bitcoin's value went up to over 4,000, which is where it is today. A couple of remarks. The miners favored expanding the block size because, long story short, it puts more money in their pocket. They get paid every time they put a block up to the blockchain, so they want transaction times to be faster for their own reasons. An expanded block size, however, hurts nodes, particularly nodes that are new to the blockchain, because that's a lot of information to pump through the pipe, whereas miners have an advantage because they have ASCII hardware, very, very sophisticated machines that can move a lot of data through. So, long story short, as SegWit prevailed, 90 days from now, SegWit 2x will lock in, we think, which is SegWit, the removal of the signature, segregated witness, plus an expanded block size to 2 megabytes. We'll see if that happens, but that seems to be the direction. And while there is intermediate stability in the ecosystem, this political tension has not gone away. It maybe only is just getting started, but it's healthy because Bitcoin needs to get its kinks out. It needs to figure out its direction, and this is kind of good. An analogy, maybe not a great one, is if you're into the America story, 1776 was the Declaration of Independence. The prevailing paradigm that was created by the founders was a document called the Articles of Confederation, and it was an instrument to bring the 13 colonies together under a certain kind of paradigm. After a few years, they realized it wasn't working at all. Too much centrifugal forces pushing them apart. They weren't coming together as a united union, which was no good, according to them. So they committed an act of treason, and in 1789, they eviscerated the Articles of Confederation, and they put in place a superseding document that we call the Constitution. 1787, I apologize. The Constitution is not coterminous with the 1776 Declaration of Independence. It came later. Point being, it takes a while for a newly formed ecosystem or political construct to find its way. And so it's healthy that SegWit and all competing philosophies are trying to figure out the right direction. I'll see you on the other side of this. Big thank you to my gorgeous, wise, glowing wife, to our feline Desmond, who knows all but won't tell us, to box mining, to crypto tips, to Ivan on tech, to Lark. You guys are all fantastic. Frank McGrath, thank you for all those veins in your biceps. Callan Von Moger, you're beautiful. Again, my wife Kate, I love you. Mark Yowitz, you're still with us. Can I go now? You are the boss.